Hi, I'm Talicza.
And I'm Rachael, and this is Transatlantic Crime, a true crime podcast that covers stories from each side of the pond. Every week, we will both cover a separate story with a running theme.
Disclaimer, this podcast will contain swearing and details that some people may find offensive. If you are of a sensitive disposition, listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Transatlantic Crime.
Crime. So close.
So we've been talking for about 25 minutes already, so you won't have to...
There is no time for talking about non-podcast related things. I don't know who the fuck we think we are.
Listeners don't have to listen to all of our shit that we normally spend 25 minutes talking on the podcast about.
This has to be pure crime.
Yes.
Oh my god, I had so much shit in my head that... Okay, so I've been staying at Tom's like all this week.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Tom.
Oh, happy birthday, Tom, if you're listening, which you fucking better be. I think he does listen sneakily just in case I say anything.
Aww.
I didn't think that he listened, and then he said something the other day, and I was like, "You've listened to the podcast this week." He's clever.
Just in case you mention something that he doesn't want mentioned. Yeah,
so I'm being spied on.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I got round his, and I'd like worked all day. And then I drove, and it's like an hour and 45-minute drive, which for you guys is nothing, but here that's a big deal.
For LA, that's not anything. That's just going across town. But for anyone else in the country, the rest of the country of America, that's not normal.
Well, in England, that actually gets you somewhere. Like, like a different town. So I drove to Tom's because it was his birthday, and like his love language is quality time. So I was like, I'm going to spend some quality time with you. We had a really nice week, but I arrived and like I was like, do you fancy watching this thing about a woman who killed a baby maybe? And he was like, no. And I was like, fine. I thought I would just ask. And then basically
happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you, put the murder on TV. And then like he was still playing a game online with his friend when I arrived, and his kitchen was like really dirty, and I was like, I cannot wake up tomorrow morning and work from home with a dirty kitchen. Like it just does my fucking head in. So like I cleaned the kitchen, and then he was like, are you okay? And I was like, I've just driven home after a whole day of work and then cleaned your kitchen. And he was like, you didn't have to clean it. And I was like, I did have to clean it because I can't work in a dirty house. It's gross. Yeah. And he was like, I was really hoping you wouldn't go in there. And then, like, so I was like in bed, like looking really sad. And he was like, do you want to watch the murder program? And I was like, I really do. But anyway, long story short is the TV wouldn't work. So the next night, I don't know what happened, but the next night or
the next night after. The kitchen is dirty, the TV doesn't work. What else?
No. It was so fucking banal, but basically he's got a Roku stick. It's old and it needs updating, and the Channel 4 app doesn't work, which is what this was on. So it's a program about a woman called, I don't know if you remember this, because it's kind of our era of being alive. I think it happened, I want to say like 1993 or 1997. But she was called Louise Woodward, and she was a nanny in Boston, and the baby that she was looking after, she was only 19 at the time, and the baby that she was looking after died of like shaken baby syndrome.
Okay.
But also it had a fracture in its skull. So when they interviewed her, like the Boston police, they were like, what happened? She's 19 and she doesn't know anything, so she just talks to the police like with no lawyer.
Right.
And she said, I got a bit frustrated and I tossed him on the bed and I kind of threw him on the floor. And they were like, not cool. So basically, like,
don't do that.
Yeah, because I didn't know really anything about that case. I won't ruin it for people because I couldn't remember what happened, but yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. It's called The Killer Nanny, Did She Do It? And it was on Channel 4. So I don't know if you can get it in America, but
I'm sure. Yeah.
I'm sure you can find it somewhere. It's not BBC, it's like so it should be easy to find. Maybe on YouTube. Maybe someone's done God's work and put it on YouTube. But it's like a
with like
4.
the pitch raised higher or something.
Yeah,
It's in
it
fast
mirrored.
forward.
So shit and annoying when they do that. Yeah, it was like fucking 3 hours long. Like it's 3-parter. The first
Yeah.
part is like what
Wow.
happened. Oh, and also she had the same lawyer that defended OJ, and obviously
Really?
not Johnny Cochran, another one of the
Yeah.
white guys that was on his team. Is it Danny Shapiro or something Shapiro? I can't
Yeah.
remember, but
Shapiro.
yeah, she had him, and I was like, the guy who got OJ off defending you is not a good look. Like,
No.
do you not think?
And very recently after as well.
Yeah, and he was
Although
really
you'd be
aggressive.
I think all of those lawyers after OJ's case were like known to be really great lawyers. Obviously, they got their main client freed
If you can
from
get OJ
a
off,
murder conviction. Yeah,
then fuck
exactly.
me, you must be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just thought like it's like we discussed the other week. Like it's a lawyer that defends people who are obviously pieces of
Mm,
shit. Not
yeah.
saying she's a piece of shit, although I kind of do think she's guilty
Yeah.
after watching the program. I don't know, like she just had this really dodgy lawyer, and I just don't know if that's a good idea.
I think that lawyers, when there's a person who's guilty and everyone knows they're guilty and they
I'll
admitted
do
that they're
it.
guilty, yeah, I feel like lawyers should like switch back and forth. Like, you should maybe do some good if you're gonna do that
Hmm.
much damage. It's
Yeah, it's a weird one.
it really is.
It's definitely worth a watch though. Really good program, and like she isn't in it, but like her mum is in it.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think she might have gone. I might cover the case because it's obviously a British defendant, but
Mm-hmm.
so fucking interesting. I don't know where she is now. She's obviously changed her
Mm,
name and
yeah, moved
fucked
on.
off somewhere, yeah. And there's loads of people that are like shaken baby syndrome doesn't exist, or like every time a child dies in just a mother's presence, that they'll be accused of like killing their own baby. And it's like sometimes babies do just die, or they're
Yeah.
born with something that you didn't know about, or
It's
they
true,
can't
babies
tell
are
you that
so
they're ill.
delicate, and yeah, you don't know. Although I don't know if I completely agree with that, because when you first have a baby, you're going to the doctor all the time. You're getting checkups all the
Mhm.
time. So
Mhm.
doctors should know your baby's health, and if something is like off or weird, then I think it would be known.
Yeah,
So,
also, like, we were discussing this today with my brother because I went to visit my brother today who's got kids, and I was
yeah.
holding my niece. She's just about to crawl. She's like six
Oh,
months, and I was
yeah.
holding her, and we just heard doink, and she just like smacked her head on the floor, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Like, everyone was just laughing because like it was just like a thump on the floor. She was
Oh,
fine. She was
she
absolutely
didn't
fine.
cry or oh,
She
okay.
did have a little cry, but then she got over it super quick
Yeah.
and there was no mark or anything. We were just
Yeah,
like,
babies do
God,
that
kids
all the
hit their head all the
time.
time.
Yes, it's
And I was
true.
saying, I remember my nephew Harvey, like, and me pushing him too hard in that little fire engine thing. And he like smacked his head really hard on the floor, and I thought, I've killed him. It's Louis C.K., like obviously not cool, but has that joke about like he says sometimes you hear your kid's head hit the floor and you think, fuck, you are just gonna be walking to a mailbox and back for like the rest of your life. Like that is you done.
It's true. Of all of my 8 siblings, for each of them, I can think of one bad
Yeah.
fall or
Severe head
accident that
injury.
happened at least once in their life that I was present for. It happened way more than that. It's happened to all of
Yeah.
us.
And they're absolutely fine, which
Right.
again, if so it kind of makes me think like if a kid dies of shaken baby syndrome or a head
Yeah.
injury, sometimes it
It's
makes me
got to
think,
be a
fuck,
lot worse,
you must have
right?
really fucking smacked that kid hard because I've
Yeah.
seen some hard falls
Right.
of kids and they have been fine. But like
Bunk
it
beds,
was,
uh,
yeah, stairs,
tables, stairs.
concrete floors because I pushed a
Yep.
thing too hard, like all of that,
All fine.
and they were fine. So it does make
Yeah.
me think you have to probably go pretty fucking hard to
Right.
severely injure a child. Like, there's no way it
Right.
could be an accident.
I agree.
So,
I'll check that show out. What is it again?
it's called The Killer Nanny. Did she do it?
Okay.
Although
We'll look it
calling
up.
something calling something The Killer Nanny and then calling it as a subtitle, did
Did
she
with
do
a
it?
question. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a leading title, but still. Yeah, what about you? Have you had any good crime or podcasts this week? TV?
Um, I have been catching up on Power, which is the
Ooh.
podcast about Hugh Hefner and Playboy and what it
Oh
was like in the
yeah.
70s. It's really good. And I really like the woman's voice in it, the host. I think that she used to be a Playboy bunny and now she's a journalist and she did like modeling to pay
Oh.
for school. But she has a really nice voice.
Oh.
And I was reading the reviews for that podcast, and a lot of the reviews were like, this woman's voice is too sexy. She needs to stop. I was like,
What?
no,
All from men.
continue. Yes.
Yeah.
So listen to that, listen to her lovely voice, and it's a good story. I've also been I binged watched this really good show. It's not true crime.
Mm.
It's called Station 11. It's on HBO.
Oh my
I
God,
watched the whole season.
is it a spin-off of
No,
another? Oh, okay, cool. I think I'm
no.
thinking of like Grey's Anatomy had a spin-off about a fire
Oh,
station. Am I right in thinking that?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's not a spin-off. It's based on a book, and so they made this show right before the pandemic happened, and then they had to stop and then they had to finish it up during the pandemic. But it's basically about a pandemic that wipes out 75% of the world or more.
Just some light
And
relief from our reality then,
I,
Rach.
I know I was like, why am I watching this? But the reason I watched it was because everyone here keeps talking about it, how amazing it
Oh,
is.
HBO
And
never does you dirty though.
oh man,
Ever.
it's my dream someday to work on something for HBO.
Rach,
So
that is not an unachievable dream. You are fantastic at your job, and that is going to happen for you. That is
thank
not
you.
a dream. Is like, I want to own an island in the Bahamas. Like, I want to work for HBO is like a fucking achievable goal.
I specifically want to direct some TV shows for HBO. So that
Pop it on a post-it, pop it on the
I'm putting
wall,
it out there.
visualize that shit.
Affirmation,
Universe,
manifestation,
do
putting it
it.
onto the podcast, saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's really good. You will I cried every
Oh,
episode. It's just like, when you need to like cry and so you watch
yeah.
something that makes you cry. That's the perfect show for it.
Cool. Okay, that's definitely a good tip because I ran out of Succession and then I thought just like that the new Sex and the City, like I thought that was over on episode 6 because but
Oh,
it had like a
really?
little white fade out at the end. I was like, okay, it's done. Like that was fine. And then someone was like, there's like 4 more episodes. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I kind
It's
of
terrible though, but it's like you have to watch it.
I'm
It's
watching it
not
because I
good.
watched it. I watched Sex and the City like every single night
Exactly.
that I lived in London. So you think I'm not going to watch this? You're being
Right.
ridiculous.
And that's what they're banking on. They're like, this is terrible, but everyone who watched Sex and the City is still going to watch it because they have to watch it because they can't not.
Oh my God, like it's just I love it. Like I do love it and I am
Yeah.
watching it and I will watch it. But every single scene it's like how fucking woke can we be in this scene? Like
Oh my gosh.
it's so try hard. It's like
It really
embarrassing.
is.
It's like
I
me, I'm
read
like
this.
embarrassed as a millennial. Like I don't want people to think that's how we think.
I keep reading all these different things about how everyone just hates Che Diaz, the comedian, like how she's
Not
not
funny.
funny.
Not funny.
There's that part where, and I keep seeing it, where Miranda tries to text her and she doesn't message her back for 3 months. And she's like, oh, Miranda, I've just had so much weed. And it was like, nobody who smokes weed says they've had so much weed. And that's why
Also,
they didn't
we's being
answer a text.
also that's no excuse for being a fuck boy, which is basically what you're
Exactly.
being. Sorry for the spoilers, but it's a load of old turd anyway, so don't
It
worry.
is. Yeah.
that I
Sorry.
am definitely watching after we finish this podcast. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
HBO
I'm trying to
though,
think.
can't go wrong. Have to watch it, whatever's on there.
We really do. There's one you'll like, I think, Rach, called The Trials of Frank Carson. Have you seen it? A
I've
podcast.
heard of that. No, yeah, I really want to watch
It
that or
it's
listen to
almost
that.
yeah, it's almost like a long form. So it's an LA. It's almost like a long form LA Times article,
Okay, yeah.
and it's about a lawyer called Frank Carson, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Making a Murderer, where he's just a pain in the ass and the police hate him, so
Okay, yeah.
they try and pin something on him,
Yeah.
basically, and you don't know if he did it or if he didn't. Like it's, I haven't finished it yet, but it's really hard to tell. Again, a bit like Making a Murderer, um,
Hmm.
but it's like definitely corrupt police and the police tactics they use to like terrorize him and his family. And
Oh
he's
wow.
just this, he's kind of like an anti-hero. Like he does
Yeah,
really annoying stuff that is irritating, but he's perfectly within his rights to do as
sure.
a American citizen. Like he, again, he's kind
Yeah.
of one of these defense lawyers who is famous for defending shitty people because everyone deserves representation. It's super interesting and quite dense, but it's a good one. I'd
Is
recommend
it
that as
are
well.
all the episodes out? Like it's good to binge from beginning to end?
Yeah, we're not gonna
Okay.
do that again. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all out. Yeah. Okay, they're my recommendations for this week.
That's a great segue into our theme this week.
It is, and you are first.
I am first.
So I'm gonna sit
Um
back,
s-
relax,
all right.
relax.
So this week our theme is police failings. And yeah, that's why that's a great segue because my story has a lot of just not very good police. Not that they're, well, let's just get into it. Okay.
Seamless linkage.
Yeah. Okay. On the night of December 22nd, 1989, the Harris family, 39-year-old Warren Harris, his 41-year-old wife Dolores, and their children, 15-year-old Shelby and 11-year-old Mark, were at home in their home in Dryden, New York, which was like a small community. Nothing ever happened there, quiet. People knew each other. People left their doors unlocked at night. People babysat each other's children. Everyone knew each other.
I'd like to live in rural New York. Sounds nice.
Yeah, well, other
And it's
than
close to
tonight.
England.
It is.
So it's like 6 hours. Boom.
Yeah. Um, so they're at home, an intruder breaks in. This is a little bit horrible. So the family were tied up, pillowcases were put over their head, and the 15-year-old daughter, she was sexually assaulted in a separate room while the three others were in one room. And then one by one, they were shot
Fucking
in the head,
hell.
execution style. Uh,
Whoa.
the bodies and rooms in the home were doused in gasoline and they were set on fire. Their bodies were found the next morning on December 23rd, also right before Christmas. Not great.
Yeah.
After a neighbor heard a smoke alarm and went to go call the police. So when the police arrived, they found the bodies. And they said that there was no sign that an intruder had forced entry into the house. But the doors were probably unlocked anyway, so
Yeah.
that wasn't really a huge clue. State troopers and FBI agents spent time at the home for the next week, searching for evidence and questioning neighbors. A brown and tan van was taken from the family's garage, and it was discovered later in a parking lot of a nearby mall. Police have said that they were looking for a bicyclist who was seen riding along Ellis Hollow Road, which is the road that the house was on, shortly before nightfall on December 22nd. So they're looking for this bicyclist and possibly someone who was driving the van.
Fuck. This is a lot
Um,
already.
yes, already we're straight into it. Friends and
Yeah.
neighbors said that the Harris family, they were a warm and welcoming family. They opened their doors to anyone. The parents were active in their children's lives. They would go to their daughter's tennis matches and their son's hockey games on the weekends. Dolores was active on the PTA. Do you have the PTA in England?
As I don't have kids, I kind of wouldn't know, but
He
I
probably
think
have something like that, right?
yeah, I think you can be like involved in school shit if you want to be. But it's not at every school, definitely not.
It's just like a known, like everyone knows what the PTA is here. And I
Yeah.
always wondered that
I
about other countries.
British people tend not to stick their nose in where it's not welcome. We're just like everyone get on with your own shit.
Drop your kids off, get on with it,
Oh fuck
pick
yeah,
them up
God
when
no
they're
that.
done.
And if anyone gets too involved in school shit, we're like probably a paedophile. So like
No, I'm sure not. There's very loving parents in England who want to be part of their kids' lives.
I say
Um,
me. I mean me.
so yeah, Dolores was active on the PTA and she had planned a birthday party for Warren later that week for his 40th birthday. And it was really sad because their funeral was on the day of the party that was supposed to
Oh,
happen. Police couldn't find anyone that knew the family that would do this. They didn't have any enemies, obviously. They're just well liked by everyone. And due to the stolen van and further stolen goods in the house, they were led to believe that this was down to a robbery. Dolores also ran a gifts and antique store not far from their home, leading police to believe that some of the items from the shop were a target. Credit cards were also taken from the home. So,
hmm.
pretty clear that it was a really bad robbery.
It was a robbery where someone thought, well, while I'm here, I might as well just rape someone as well and
And
kill
murder
you all.
everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Pretty harsh.
Fucking hell. That's that's to put it mildly.
Yes. So the police traced the credit cards, and they found that a man and a woman used the Harris's cards to buy clothing, electronics, and diamonds at malls
Oh,
in suburban
please.
Syracuse and Auburn the day after the bodies were found. Clerks at the stores helped a police artist draw sketches of the people who used the cards.
Fucking stupid.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. It is
When
stupid to use them,
89, right?
but
It's 89,
1989, yeah.
so the tracing of stuff is just not as quick and easy.
It's not, but it's also credit cards back then were that thing where they had to like stamp
A
them
bit of
down and like
paper.
use that thing. Yeah, that like
Yeah.
it takes time. It's not
An
like today where you
imprint.
put it in and it beeps and then you take it back out. Like this takes a good 5 minutes to process your credit card
And you
in a
sign a bit
shop.
of paper and they look at the back of the card and look at your signature and go, man, that's about the
Yeah.
same. Like, what the hell was
Yeah.
that?
Exactly. This, along with the tip off, led police to the apartment of 33-year-old Michael King. And this was mainly down to the tip off.
Mm.
Michael King was a man who had already had an extensive criminal record of robbery and possession of assault weapons. Because of the tip off, police were armed and ready when entering the home on February 7th, 1990, where they found Michael King sitting on his bed with a sawed off shotgun in his hands. He was just about to commit suicide. However, when he turned to face police, his gun went off and a shootout between him and the police resulted in Michael being shot and killed. This
No.
is all down to the police saying these things as well. So just take it with a grain of
Oh,
salt.
okay. Okay.
They also said the same sawed off shotgun was also apparently a match to the same weapon used in the Harris family murders.
You can't
But
really make ballistic comparisons with shotguns. Am I right in thinking that? You could
I
say
don't
it
think
was a
so.
shotgun.
You could say it was a shotgun and possibly even more so a shot off shotgun. You would probably be able to
Yeah.
tell.
But it's definitely not as accurate as regular ballistics, is it?
No. And I mean, once we continued this story, who knows if he actually had a sawed off shotgun and it wasn't just something that the police may have planted. So that happened. Police weren't finished.
Okay.
So the Harris family, next door, they had a neighbor who lived in an apartment. She was 54-year-old Shirley King. She was Michael King's mom. Due to the clerk's sketches and an apparent eyewitness during the night of the murder, Shirley was also arrested, charged with 4 counts of second-degree murder, 1 count of
What?
arson, and 1 count of possessing stolen property in the Harris case. So
Whoa.
Shirley, when police went to her home, she did admit that she had used those credit cards to
Yeah.
buy something.
Okay.
Just that. But she said she knew nothing of the murder. She didn't know anything else. She just knew that she had these credit cards. Somebody gave them to her and she used them to go shopping. To me, she was probably down and out and maybe someone gave them to her
I mean, who the hell
for
is going
some
to take
reason.
their mum along for a nice full family murder and rape? Like,
Right,
that just
exactly.
sounds like
54-year-old as well.
when has that ever happened ever before? Like, if someone can find me a case where that has ever happened, I will
Hey, Mom,
send you a sticker.
could you help me with this? Also, she's this sweet, if you see pictures of her, very little woman. If she was even present during any of that, she would have done very little because she's not
She
a big
doesn't look
lady at
capable.
all.
Yeah.
No. So she was arrested. New York State Police had also previously obtained a sworn statement from a resident on the same road of the Harris home. In the sworn statement, the witness stated that on December 23rd, 1989, at approximately 6:50 a.m., which is when they did the time of the murders, it was way after that. 6:50 a.m.
Hmm.
is way after that. Okay, so the witness was exiting his driveway when he saw a slow-moving van approaching his driveway from the east. The
Hmm.
witness, in quotes, identified the driver of this van as a light-skinned black man wearing a stocking cap, and further stated that he was accompanied by a female passenger, also light-skinned but darker than the driver, who appeared older than the driver. He indicated that his description of the occupants of the van matched the composite sketches of the suspects, which they found from the clerks with
Okay.
the stolen credit cards. Take that witness statement with a grain of salt as well, because he later withdrew his statement. I think that the police may have made that up again
Yeah.
in order to
Also,
match their story.
how far away do Michael, is it Shirley and Michael King?
Yeah. So
How far away do
Shirley,
they live?
she lived right next door to the
Yeah,
Harris
but
home.
oh,
And Michael lived in an apartment like 4 or 5 miles away. And also that night there was a storm. So when later, we're already getting into it, but like later on when the lawyers were trying to present Shirley's case, they were like, why would Michael go to the house, murder everyone, drive back home to his house where there was apparently gas canisters, come back, get his mom, set the place on fire, take the van, and then drive away? It didn't make
yeah,
any sense.
that's crazy. And wasn't he on a bike?
Yeah,
Where's the bike come
exactly.
in? Like,
And it was snowing.
okay, this is okay.
So police are just kind of gathering all these apparent witness statements, bicyclist, man who sees a man and a woman driving a van, trying to get it all together. Oh, and there was also this point as well after they got that statement. So officers Harding and Lashansky of Troop C, remember their names, also
Okay.
claimed that they found fingerprints on gasoline cans found at the Harris home. The fingerprints, apparently, they were Shirley's fingerprints.
Okay, so your mum's just dousing the crime scene that you've just raped a girl in, and
Yes,
she's just setting that up. Like, she's just saving you some time.
right.
Mum's just helping and saving some
Just
time.
helping out. So, on November 1990, a jury convicted Shirley King of burglary, arson, hindering prosecution, criminal possession of stolen property, and forgery, and she was sentenced to 18 to 44 years in prison.
4.
Yeah. She continued to fight her case, denying that she was any part of the arson or murder crimes. Again, she did admit to using some stolen credit cards, but not knowing anything else.
Do you think she knew the credit cards were stolen but was like, fuck it?
I think that she was maybe given these credit cards. I think she was down on her luck, and somebody who
Yeah.
stole them in the first place, they were somehow passed to her to
Okay.
use. But I truly don't think that she knew anything else about
They were
anything.
dead people's credit cards.
I don't even think she knew that.
Yeah.
Because she
Difficult
used
one.
them apparently the day after the murders when nothing was known yet. So
Yeah.
her lawyers obviously attempted to appeal. So during the time that she was convicted and put into prison, one of the investigating officers, David L. Harding, who I mentioned earlier, applied for a job at the CIA. He was trying to
Right up in
move
the
up.
world.
Yeah. During his interview, he was asked if he was willing to break the law for his country. He answered yes. And
What?
then he explained, yeah.
What kind of question is that?
I guess it's to see, like, to catch guys like
Yes.
this.
Absolutely yes.
Yes, I did.
A
And
million
here's
times
how I've
yes.
done it in the past.
How else are you supposed to CIA?
So he then explained how he had worked to convict people he felt sure were guilty by fabricating evidence. One specific case was that of Shirley King. He explained how he planted her fingerprints police had obtained during her questioning and placed them on some of the gas canisters from Michael King's home that were apparently used in setting the Harris home on fire. Officer Harding assumed that the CIA would be pleased with his answers, but instead,
What a dickhead.
it's like when
That
a
question
kid
was a test. Okay.
It reminds me of when a kid gets a hold of some markers and draws on the wall and then comes in and is like, look what I did. And they think that they did this amazing thing. And then the parents are like, what did you do?
Yeah. Naive confidence.
That was the CIA. Yeah, that was the CIA. They notified the United States Department of Justice. So he didn't just talk about Shirley's case, he talked about a couple of other times that he did that as well.
Oh my god, like here's just a couple on the top of my head.
Yeah.
You're gonna love this.
He told them that, and then meanwhile, they had found another man, the police, who had confessed to the crimes of the Harris murder, and this man had given police intimate details of the crime scene that could only have been known by the person who committed them. So this guy did it. He admitted it. It had nothing to do with Michael or Shirley King. That's why I think like they just happened to receive stolen credit cards some way or another because another man admitted to doing it. So that admission of Officer Harding led to him and 4 other troopers being convicted in a wide-ranging evidence tampering scandal out of Troop C in the Southern Tier, in which a special prosecutor investigated and turned up at least 34 cases of planted evidence out of Troop C, including that of Shirley King.
Not fucking cool. I don't like that stat. I don't want to believe that the police are crooked. I know they are, but I really don't want to believe it.
Yeah. On top of this, I'm sure there were many cases, including this one, because Shirley and Michael were people of color, where the police were like, yep, you're guilty. No fair investigation. We're just, because we have a hunch, we're going to convict you. And I'm sure that happened a lot in those 34 cases.
Yeah, I mean, using dead people's stolen credit cards is not a fucking good look. But
no,
again, that's not proof enough.
No, it's not. And it is a crime, and she did
admit to the crime.
I mean, she had to pay a fee or like a penalty, and she went to prison for that as well. But to also be implicated in a family of 4's murder and your son who killed himself because they thought it was him as well.
I forgot about that. Even though you already told me like 3 minutes ago.
Which brings me back to the sawed-off shotgun. Like, who knows if that was planted there as well, or if it was even a true statement by the police.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of like, when we found them, they were pointing a gun at us, and it was us or them. So
yeah, exactly.
we had to shoot them. Like, and there's no other witness, so whatever the police say kind of has to go.
Right. And there's like 6 police that just barged into your house, and there's one of you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who's going to win in that case? Anyways,
Mm.
authorities dismissed burglary and arson charges against Mrs. King, and she was freed from prison in November 1992 after spending almost 3 years in prison for crimes she did not commit. Later in an interview, she said that during her trial, she kept trying to catch Officer Harding's eye, knowing that he had lied the whole time during trial about her. She said, "I was hoping that he would catch fire and just explode. Poof."
Dude, we all think that about a lot of people.
Yeah. She said she'll always carry with her the horror of going to prison for a crime she didn't commit. "We're told that everything happens for a reason," she said. "I still haven't figured out what the reason for mine was. There's a certain amount of garbage that we all have to go through between birth and death. I just had to have a bigger shovel, that's all."
That's some
And
philosophical shit there, Shirley.
yeah.
Sometimes you just have a bigger shovel.
So David L. Harding, he was a 7-year veteran of the force. He was sentenced on December 16th, 1992 to 4 to 12 years in prison, and he was fined $20,000 for fabricating evidence in 4 documented cases.
Wow, I'm so glad he got stiffed.
Yeah, and he didn't
That
get his
never
job at the
happens.
CIA, obviously.
Yeah. Oh my god, what a fuck. That was like Liars Say No.
I
What a
know.
fucking idiot.
The other officers involved in planting evidence were Craig D. Harvey, who was a lieutenant who headed the identification unit, and he was a 16-year veteran of the force. He pled guilty on July 29th, 1993 to fabricating evidence in 3 cases, and he agreed to serve 2.5 to 7 years in prison. Robert M. Lashansky was an 11-year veteran of the force. Just think about, like, some of these guys are been on the force more than a decade. How many times did they do this to people?
Also,
How
in
many?
prison, you're a fucking police officer in prison. Like,
Good luck.
hell lies
Yeah.
ahead of you. Like, what a shit show.
Yikes. So Lashansky, he was sentenced on June 10th, 1993 to 6 to 18 years in prison for fabricating evidence in 21 cases.
No.
David M. Beers was a 15-year veteran. He pled not guilty on May 5th and on July 29th to fabricating evidence in 2 cases, and he was acquitted by a jury in 1993. Patrick
Lucky little
O'Hara
fucker.
was a lieutenant. Patrick O'Hara was a lieutenant and a 16-year veteran of the force. He was suspended on July 29th, 1993, pending an investigation into Harvey's allegations that O'Hara helped fake evidence. Prosecutors dropped the charges that O'Hara had helped Harvey fake a fingerprint, but O'Hara served 1 year in prison as part of his plea agreement. And that is the story of the upstate New York cops who planted evidence and for sure failed as police officers.
Wow, that is fucking crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
It's such a shame as well. Stop it. Just do your work properly.
It's like you're supposed to be the top person who's supposed to uphold the law, keep everyone safe, and think of all the people that were wrongly convicted. That means that the people who actually did the murders and the crimes got away with it.
I just fucking hate cheaters in any kind of way. Like, I hate it. I hate it when people cheat. I hate it when people cheat at board games. I hate it when people cheat on their spouses. I hate it. I just hate cheaters and liars. Like, just be a good boy or a good girl. Just be good. How do you fucking sleep at night? Just be a nice person. You know when people are like, oh, God keeps me on the straight and narrow, or, like, you should just have an inner compass that goes, that's out of order. Don't do it.
I agree, but also know the job that you're entering into. You're going to be a police officer, so be a good police officer. You're going to go into the Olympics. Don't cheat. Don't put weights in your bobsled.
Don't put weights in your bobsled. That's so specific. What film is that from? Is it
Cool
Cool Runnings?
Runnings. Yeah.
Oh my God.
If you're gonna get
By the
married,
way,
like, know your job as a husband or wife and don't cheat on your spouse. If you're gonna go to school and take a test, don't. I mean, I definitely cheated in school on my tests,
I
especially
don't think
math.
I ever did. Like,
Really?
I revised and did it right because I don't want to
I
win
just
like that. I'm not
I
trying to
had
shame you. Like, I've cheated on people before, 100%. Like, I've cheated on people, and I've stolen stuff from a shop before, like when I was a teenager. So I don't think I'm better than you. But like, yeah, like
when it
you just,
matters though, when it hurts
yeah.
people, that is when you should not cheat.
Ugh, stop being a cunt.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really good story. And do you know anything about the guy that actually did it?
No, I think he
Did he
just
live
confessed
near them,
and
or did he do anything
no,
else?
I really couldn't find much else about him because most of
Maybe
the
you could cover
stories were
him.
about, I think because so much of the press was about Shirley and
Yeah, it was
her
like
whole
outrageous,
ordeal. Yeah,
like
that they
how it went
didn't
down.
really cover anything else about what he just confessed and that was it.
Wow, that's super interesting though. Like that story has made me want to delve into it more and like find
Hmm.
out, I don't know, just loads of extra stuff. Like that's
Well,
what,
there was another case in that case with that specific officer,
yeah, like the what
Officer
other things did he
Harvey.
plant?
Well, I almost did this story and I'll just read the short Wikipedia about it. It was about this guy
Okay.
named John Spencer. In April 1993, John Spencer was the suspect and he had touched something during their booking. So it was like
Yeah.
John Spencer was in the New York precinct,
Mm-hmm.
and the cop then took that fingerprints to evidence cards and later claimed that he had pulled those fingerprints from the scene of a murder. And they had proved that the fingerprints came from the precinct and not
Oh my
from
God.
the evidence in the house. So
Again,
that
it's
guy was convicted 50 years to life in prison. And so that's another one that those cops,
fuck.
yeah,
Like again, it's like the real murderer is out there just fucking murdiddly murdering
exactly.
because
Yeah.
you can't be fucked to do your job properly.
Right. John
Oh,
Spencer his conviction was overturned, but then he was convicted again at a retrial. So we don't know if he did it or if he didn't do it, but just the fact that the police fucked that
oh,
up was like,
yeah,
it didn't help things. It made things 10 times worse in actually finding out what happened.
yeah. Okay, I know the police probably want to get like a bad guy off the streets and they'll do it any other way, but again, it's like we
Yeah.
said, there's somebody that actually did that crime
Right.
that you're trying to pin on them that's now
Right.
just fucking in the ether, potentially killing God knows who. So,
Exactly. Anywhere else.
great
Could have gone
story.
anywhere else. Yeah. Thank you.
Good job.
Let's hear yours.
Okay, mine is more than police failings. It's more like the whole system failed,
Okay.
basically.
Yes.
But I've never heard of
All the
this,
way to the
and
top.
it goes all the way to the top. It's like, sorry, I said that just as you sipped a drink. um, I was at Tom's the other day, and I was like drinking a cup of tea, and then basically his dog doesn't like stuff on the TV. Anything with
Oh, yeah.
eyes, she just goes mental at, which I think I've said before.
Yeah.
And there was a horse, which is like her least favourite of all of the things. Horses are like, I fucking hate you. Like that is her number one hit list. So
That's hilarious.
and Tom was like, no, and he's put his whole hand over her face,
Oh,
like pushed it away. And I just went tea everywhere.
oh no.
Because she's a pug as well, her whole face fits in your hand. So it's like,
Like a fistful.
and I think it's because he's warned me that she hates horses the most, but I've never actually seen her react to one.
Did she already see it? Was it
Yeah,
too late? Oh
she like
no.
breathed in to like go ah, and Tom was like, no.
It's so funny that he has that sixth sense of being like, no, there's a horse on TV. No.
Another thing, which I'm going to send you after this because I feel like you need cheering up, and fuck me. Like, so we're watching, there's a YouTube channel called Fail Army.
Yeah.
So there's like all different like clips of people just falling over or like
Failing. Yes.
just fucking like flying off a tire swing, like just
Yeah.
loads of stuff, face planting off a skateboard. There was one, and it was just like a Snapchat, and it said, me going in to see my boss on my day off, and you can't see anything. Like all you can see is a camera walking in to it looks like almost like a beautician shop. There's a fan running, so they
Yeah.
just walk in, like put their arse near the fan, and it just goes like fart.
Oh no.
And then they go up to the till and go ding on a bell. And then they walk out, and you hear in the background someone going, "Just coming." Like they just go, ugh! Like,
oh my
it's like
god.
it's just the most immature thing ever, but it was just somebody farting in a fan and then leaving. I just could not be comforted from laughing so much. It was just like the funniest thing. I'm so fucking immature though. Fart jokes, I'm just done. Floors me.
Sometimes they just get you.
Every time a fart joke gets me. I think it's from growing up with two older brothers. Like that was the basis of the comedy in our house, was just arses.
It's funny because if somebody farts, you're not specifically like laughing at them. You're just laughing at the sound it makes.
The noise.
Yeah.
The fact that it's gonna smell maybe.
Yeah.
Like
But I think that's what would happen in school. Like somebody would fart and then everyone would laugh, and you would think that it was such this bad thing against the person who farted, but it was just funny.
my favourite is like once I had a boyfriend and he had loads of stuff in his hands and he went to turn on the light in the bedroom and like just like went and I was like, did you just fart? And he was like, I just got really overwhelmed and I had loads of stuff in my hands. I just like couldn't hold it in.
Oh, I have a story of when we first moved into this house, the floors were really slippery because they waxed them. And it was the first time we had friends over. It was another couple.
Right.
And I went into the other room.
I fucking love fart stories. Like, I'm gonna treasure this.
I went into the other room and I slipped and I fell right on my ass. And right when I fell, I farted. So, like, everyone was in the other room and they heard this fall and then a fart.
The most undignified series of events. Also, don't come and help me because I don't want you to smell my fart.
Will came in and he was like, oh my god, are you okay? Because I was on the floor, but I was laughing so hard.
Oh my god, I'd have died.
And then my friends pretended like they didn't hear it. They were being really nice, and I was
really
like,
polite.
you guys don't have to pretend. It was hilarious.
Oh god.
It was like a little toot. It was like slam, toot.
Right. I'm telling you now.
That was a nice little break from murder.
That was a fucking nice break because this is going to be horrible. This is not falling over and then a little tooty fart coming out. This is hideous.
All right. I'll just remind you of it at the end so that we can bring it back up to a lighter tone.
I'll try and think of some more fart stories as well throughout.
Okay. Listeners, do you have any hilarious fart stories?
Oh my god, please send them in. Please. I live for fart stories. It's the best. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Serious.
All right.
Serious stuff. Okay. So, Rosie Frances Palmer was born on the 1st of August 1990 in Hartlepool, County Durham. So Hartlepool is a large town located 32 miles southeast of Newcastle, I'm trying to be
Mhm.
more precise because I was told feedback was you're shit at geography. And so
Oh.
it's true. It's fine. I'm okay with it. But yeah, so it's like northeast and very cold, very next to the coast. So
Mhm.
yeah, so Rosie's mum was a midwife called Beverly Yates, and she had a stepdad who was called John Thornton. On the 30th of June 1994, Rosie was 3 years old, and her stepdad John collected her from the nursery and he dropped her off to play at a neighbour's house. And then the local ice cream man came around, and he was called Gary Amerigo, and he arrived
Mhm.
at 3:30, and Rosie asked her stepdad if she could have an ice pop. So you know what that is, right? It's just like a
Yeah.
yeah,
Popsicle.
yeah. So she was the only child that had approached the ice cream truck that day. So Gary gave her the ice pop even though she didn't have the right amount of money, which is really sweet
Aw.
because he knew
Yeah.
her. And he said that she was her normal, cheerful self. And then he watched her walk away as she left. And there's a picture of her that was obviously circulated, and she's really cute. She's like got little ginger hair, and she's got like a little bob and glasses, even though she's 3. So she's just
Aw.
like the cutest. So at 5:30 p.m., her stepdad tried to find her to leave, but then realized that she wasn't there. And so all the neighbors panicked and started searching for her, but they couldn't find her anywhere in their houses or playing in the local area. So at 8:45, they finally realized that they just had to call the police.
Okay.
So Detective Superintendent Doug Smith headed up the search for Rosie, and this started with door-to-door inquiries. They later brought in tracking dogs and they got local people to help with the search. They searched all the local warehouses and industrial buildings, and there was loads of disused premises around the docks, and they searched all there. And they also got the Coast Guard to search the sea and the bays because they were in a harbour town. But
Okay.
again, that just turned up nothing. So after tracing her movements on that day, they realised that the last person that she interacted with was the ice cream man Gary, and
Mhm.
he had parked next to a block of flats. So they decided to interview the residents to find out if they'd seen anything, which was on the next day, the 1st of July. On the 2nd of July, they returned and searched all of the flats on that road with the residents' permission. So on the first day they just spoke to them, and then on the second day they were like, okay, we need to search your houses. But
Yeah.
everyone was okay with that. They just wanted her to be
Okay.
found. And then on the third day, there was a man called Shaun Anthony Armstrong, and he raised suspicion because when they returned to speak to him, his demeanor had changed from being friendly and helpful to shifty and on edge, and he looked really worried. So
Mhm.
this led the detectives to arresting him, and they searched his flat again. And unfortunately, they found Rosie's half naked body in a bin bag inside his airing cupboard.
Oh no.
She had been raped, murdered, and mutilated. They
Oh.
also found another bag containing her shorts and her underwear.
This is like a
So Armstrong
parent's
denied any
worst
involvement.
nightmare.
It's horrific. Armstrong denied any involvement in the crime, and he claimed that someone else must have put the body in there. Yeah, nice one.
What?
Like,
Yeah.
that's likely. So, who is he? So, he is called Shaun Anthony Armstrong, and he was born on the 30th of June 1962, and he'd lived in the area for most of his life. He was born to Rachael Teal, who at the time was 18 and unmarried. His father, it turned out, was Joseph James Steele, who was his own grandfather. So
Oh,
he was a child of incest.
not a
Um,
happy life from the beginning.
and kind of reminiscent of Ted Bundy as well. So
That's true.
he was born blue, so he was like deprived of oxygen, and he was delivered by forceps. And as a result of the traumatic birth, his mum wasn't able to have any further children.
Hmm.
Until he was 3, he was brought up by his maternal grandparents, as his mother was either working or in and out of hospital with psychiatric problems, which she had suffered with from about the age of 14, which is not surprising considering you're being raped by
Yeah.
your dad. Yeah.
Yes.
So when he was 3 years old, his mother married George Armstrong, who was then 15 years older than her.
Okay.
So she was 8, so she was 21 and he's 15 years older than her, so
So
he's
36.
36. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Armstrong was brought up believing that he was George Armstrong's son. So
Okay.
they just told him that that was his dad.
I think
As
that's
I know,
okay.
I don't know what the fuck I don't know what I don't know what Rachel, his mum's mum, is thinking or
Yeah.
doing, but maybe Rachel just lied and said like, I just slept with somebody random.
Yeah, if you're a kid, 3 years old onward, you're not really gonna understand. And if your mom marries someone new, you're gonna be like, "That's my dad," you know. And
Yeah, I mean,
if
for
I think for a good amount of time while you're a child and saving your innocence, I think it's okay to be like, "Yep, you can
it's
call him
fucking
dad."
it's fucking complicated to explain,
Yeah,
so fuck it,
yeah,
whatever.
right.
Yeah, so
Whatever.
whatever, like that's fine. Because he was an only child, Armstrong developed a really close relationship with his cousin, Andrew Seal, who was almost exactly the same age.
Okay.
Andrew, but then Andrew was tragically killed in a road accident in
Oh,
1969 when both children were 7. And this event led to an immediate change in his behaviour. And he said about himself, I became a bastard, I became hateful, and I got mad at everyone. He
well,
was
yeah,
apparently, yeah, so he's 7 and his best friend has been killed. So
yeah.
he was apparently referred to a child psychologist. Approximately 1 month after his cousin died, he was still 7 years old, and his mum subjected him to inappropriate sexual behaviour.
Mm.
This continued until he was 13, when it progressed to full sexual intercourse, which took place sporadically until
Oh,
he was 16. So this family is fucked. Like,
yeah.
incest is not a problem with them. On the 25th of February 1978, he's 16 at this point. A consultant child psychiatrist wrote to his GP on account of overt sexual advances that he'd made towards his mother. So
Okay.
now his mother's turned it round and said
Yeah.
that, like, he's coming on to me,
Okay. This is messed up.
basically. This
Yeah.
is fucked. So, yeah, his mother was concerned as to whether the circumstances of his birth meant that he had a mental disability.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor stated that he reassured the mother that he didn't consider Armstrong was disturbed.
Okay.
So that's like a failing. Like,
Yes.
basically his parents failed, then doctors failed him.
Yep.
Um, this is, yeah, everyone's just fucking sweeping everything under the carpet. He then joined the Navy, but he was discharged on the grounds that that's probably on the bingo card. But then he was just discharged on the grounds that he was psychologically unfit. This was
Mm-hmm.
due to to stress over the death of his girlfriend, who got cervical cancer at the age of 17.
Whoa. Gee, this guy
He
doesn't have a break. Even if he was a
nowhere.
good person.
Yeah. In between the years when he was discharged from the army and when the event happened with Rosie, he was married twice to older women, but neither lasted due to domestic violence and them finding out about his sexual relations with his mother. He was
Okay.
later also accused of sexually abusing both of his stepchildren in the marriages.
Oh,
He
man.
totally denied this, and in absence of any further proof, police decided to take no further action.
Okay.
So, fast forward, and he's 31, so this is 1993. This
This
is
is
just a
all
couple of
throughout his
months.
20s. He got
Yeah,
married twice. He joined the Navy. He got kicked out of the Navy. That's a lot to happen before you're
uh-huh.
30.
Yeah, and your mum's in and out of a psychiatric ward and sexually abusing you, and
Yeah.
your cousin died, and your girlfriend died. At 31, he had a string of overdoses because he always tried to commit suicide when his relationships broke down.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
in June of 1993, he was admitted to a medical ward in a deeply unconscious state because he had a serious overdose as a result of an argument with his girlfriend. During this, he stated that his girlfriend had thrown him out without any clothes, so he was homeless and he needed help with accommodation. He also stated that he intended to kill his girlfriend and then himself. So
Okay.
they just didn't believe him and
What?
just let him out. He also stated that his girlfriend was drinking heavily and that she had attempted to set fire to the house on 2 occasions. But they were like,
Okay.
whatever, we're going to give you a
Yeah.
council flat and leave you on your own. So
Right.
what happened with Rosie was, so this is June, so 2 months later, that
Oh,
happened with Rosie.
no.
So he moved into a council flat on Frederick Street in August 1993. He got the flat because he'd been diagnosed with personality disorder and psychopathy. His psychiatric consultant wrote a supporting letter to the housing department stating that he was vulnerable and needed a place to live. So on the estate, his nickname was Tony the Pervert. So
Oh,
that's always
what?
good. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, if I was the police, I'd be like, any neighbours a bit weird? Tony the Pervert, right? I'll be knocking straight on his door.
Well, this
Um,
is also due to the failure of the police as well. It's like knowing someone like that lives, you should already know that someone like that lives in the area
yeah,
in those
that's the
flats.
first thing you do, isn't it? You check the sex offenders
Right.
in the area.
Yeah.
People described him as a loner, disliked and distrusted by all those who knew him.
Okay.
So that's a fucking ringing report.
Yeah.
um, Nobody likes you, basically, is what they were saying.
Nobody
He didn't have
trusts
a job
you.
at the time. Yeah, he was an alcoholic and he also took a lot of prescription drugs.
Okay.
He'd also been in trouble with the police before for petty crimes, like robbery and yeah, just basically stealing was quite a lot of it. And as I said before, he was investigated in relation to child sex offences but never charged. And those were
Okay.
in relation to his stepdaughters. In March 1993, he'd been released from Hartlepool General Hospital and rehoused near Rosie's family home. And at that time, a social worker warned her superiors that Armstrong was likely to be a risk to any child he comes into contact with. But the county council failed to act on the report.
Yeah.
Yeah, so loads of chances to stop this from happening. On the day before Rosie was abducted, on the 30th of June 1994, Armstrong had been on a bender for 2 days solid, partying because it was his birthday, at different people's houses, pubs, and clubs. He got a taxi home at 3:30 p.m., and that was about the same time that the ice cream van pulled into his street.
Oh.
The rear of his flat backed onto the cul-de-sac where Rosie had purchased the ice cream, and it was just 50 meters from her own house.
Wow.
This is horrible as well, so sorry, I probably should have given you a bit more of a warning, but if you want to just skip forward like 30 seconds, this is about the
I
injuries
want to
that she
skip
had.
forward.
I know,
I don't want to
sorry.
listen to this.
Um,
Okay.
so a post-mortem determined that she was dead just an hour later at 4:30, although because she'd been kept in an airing cupboard for 3 days, that affected the decomposition of her body, and then pathologists
Mm.
couldn't be 100% sure exactly how she died. So police said at a news conference that she had been severely sexually assaulted, and that was the possible cause of the death, which was the actual
Oh,
injury itself, which is
that's
fucking
horrible.
horrific. And
Yeah.
then a judge later said that Rosie had been subjected to gross violation and had almost certainly died because Armstrong suffocated her when she cried out at the assault. So
Oh.
I kind of hope it was the latter, just so
Yeah.
she didn't have to go through, so she just passed out,
Right.
you know? Didn't
Yeah.
have to go through any more than was fucking necessary.
Right.
Um, so about 4:30, it was report on that day that Rosie was killed. It was reported that Anthony had visited the local shop and he'd bought some more alcohol, a bottle of cider, and he told the cashier that he was going to help look for the little girl who had vanished, even though Rosie
Oh.
had not yet been reported missing.
Whoa.
If you noticed before, it was 5:30 before they even realised she was gone.
Yeah.
So that's not good. The shopkeeper noticed blood on his hand and asked him about it, to which he replied that he'd been bitten by his dog, and the shopkeeper said that was strange because it was just blood and there was no wound.
Okay.
So he's like really sloppy.
Well,
He
he's
then took his
drunk. He's wasted.
yeah, he's fucking absolutely wasted. So after the murder, he took his dog and a bottle of cider to a nearby beach and was reported to the police by the general public for running in and out of the sea for 2 hours. Like, what the
He's
fuck are you on?
just,
Just section him at that point. Like,
yes. Right.
so the police arrived and told him to go home.
Thanks,
No.
cops.
So after the discovery of Rosie's body, Armstrong was charged with murder and remanded in custody. His trial was going to be at Leeds Crown Court. The nature of the crime and the age of the victim caused a wave of public anger and protests, and threats and
Yeah.
violence were also directed at the local council, which I kind of think is like, there's this whole debate of like, should you be told if a sex offender is going to live near you? Well, I think obviously the answer is yes. But then
Yeah.
there's a Louis Theroux documentary where they're like, well, if people know, they'll just constantly fuck with us until we leave. So where do we
Sorry.
put? Yeah, obviously, I agree
don't
with you.
don't do the crime, and then people won't look at
Yeah,
you like you're a piece of shit.
which you are. Yeah, I totally get that. But that's their argument of why they don't tell people, is that if they did tell people, you couldn't put them anywhere. You'd have to have some sort of
Well,
secure facility. I mean,
yeah.
good.
I don't know what the answer to that is, but I'm just
Yeah,
like, well, you do something horrible like that, and then you should be punished, and who gives a shit where you live?
forever. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone should know where
Um,
you live.
yeah, I think so too. Even if I did know that a paedophile lived somewhere, I'm not the type of person that would go and burn their house down. I would just make sure my
No,
fucking kids didn't go anywhere near there, and I'd keep an eye on them.
exactly.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
I know there is like vigilante justice and stuff, but it is a matter of public safety.
Right.
People should have the right to know.
Parents
You
should
know, like
know.
everyone should know. Like, if I had my nephew round here and my neighbor was happened to be a sex offender or a paedophile, I'd fucking want to know that.
Right.
Then
Well,
I
I'll tell
wouldn't
you
be
too,
like,
like I moved into a bad neighborhood when I first moved back to Minnesota from England, and my boyfriend's dad he knew I lived in that neighborhood, and he would send me every time he found out that there was like a registered sex offender. Sometimes there would be pictures, because then
that
you
is
could be like,
helpful.
it's super helpful, because then you'd be like, oh, I saw that guy biking down the street the other day. I'm not gonna engage with him. Like,
Yeah, or that guy
you just
goes,
need to
oh,
know.
yeah, or that guy goes, oh, by the way, like I've got a package, come over and collect it. No, no,
Right.
I'm fine. I'll send a bloke.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I've got friends who are like, that's really not fair. People deserve a second chance. Like, I do have
Sure.
friends like that.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people, but
People
there are
and
those
yeah,
people.
I mean, there's some people who get on the sex offenders list because they were 18 and they had a 17-year-old boyfriend or girlfriend. And that can happen sometimes too. And then you're on the list for a long time. But
I know, but I
like,
kind of think that's the exception, not the rule.
exactly. Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree. The majority of people on that list,
that's
they
sad
should
for
be
you,
on
but
that
you still knew
list.
you shouldn't be fucking a 17-year-old.
Right. Yeah.
It still is wrong. It's less of a degree of wrong, but it still is wrong. So it's difficult, but yeah. Yeah, so the first solicitor as well that was appointed to him withdrew from the case, stating that I have my staff to think about. Because basically he got a load of shit and like attacked and death threats said to him, and
Okay.
he was like, I don't want to do this. So
Makes sense.
Armstrong maintained his innocence for a while.
What?
So
How
yeah, he
can
was like,
you?
wasn't me. Yeah, he literally just kept saying, wasn't me. When he realised he was banged to rights, aka the witness statement from the shopkeeper and the fact that her fucking body was found in his house, he
Yeah.
decided that he was going to fake mental illness and plead guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. However,
Okay.
while he was waiting for his trial, a famous British crime author called Bernard O'Mahony wrote to
Hmm.
him and posed as a woman in hope of getting a written confession from him. In the
Whoa.
letter, he is a fucking idiot. He revealed his plans to fake mental illness, and he made a confession. And
Whoa.
the crime author Bernard showed this letter to the jury during the trial. So
What?
Armstrong then realised that he had been caught and quickly changed his plea to guilty.
Okay, great.
So he was sentenced to life on the 28th of July 1995, and at the time the judge didn't make any recommendation as to how many years he should serve before he could be considered for parole.
Good.
But this was unusual Like, it never really happened. So after
Right, you guys
appeals,
normally have a specific amount of time, right? That's
yeah, like
always
I didn't
named.
even. It's either a full life tariff or you say you have to serve X many years before you're considered for
Right,
parole. But it's life.
right.
So this is unusual. So after appeals, a High Court ruling, but this is 11 years later. This took to get to the High
Okay.
Court.
That's
Um,
fine.
so whatever. So it's, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not at the top of the fucking pile. So it's May
Right.
2006, and the same judge was made to set a minimum term. So he said, I'm going to give you 16 years, subject to a deduction of 12 months and 21 days for the period on remand, meaning Armstrong was eligible for parole on July 2010.
Wow. Because he had already
Yes.
served 10 or 11 years, so he only had technically 5 years left.
Yes, exactly that.
Okay.
So, a report in the psychiatric care given to Armstrong was published in June 1996, 2 years after the murder, and the local health authority was criticised because the standard of care was inadequate and full of shortcomings. But they added that the murder of Rosie could not have been predicted. I'm thinking it could have. He said he
I
was going
think
to kill
this
him.
guy, he was gonna do something bad.
He was going to
I
do
don't think it would have,
something.
yeah, I don't think it would be fair to say like he was gonna kidnap a 3-year-old, but he was gonna do
Yeah.
something to someone.
Yeah, I don't. He was not safe to be released into the community. I would say
Right.
that is a fair statement. In June 1997, Rosie's mum Beverly launched a £200,000 compensation claim against T's Health Authority and the East Durham NHS, alleging negligence
Mm-hmm.
for allowing Armstrong to be released from their care. This was thought to be the first damages claim against a health authority or NHS trust by a relative of
Wow.
someone murdered by a released patient. But the claim
Good
was
for
struck
her.
off. Yeah, but it didn't. They just struck it off on February 1998 in the
Oh.
High Court, who ruled that Armstrong had made no direct threat against Rosie or her family. He said, in the absence of such a specific threat, I think it is impossible, as the law currently stands, for me to hold that a hospital in these circumstances owes effectively a duty of care to the world at large. Again, it's one of those things, it's like you can't punish people for crimes they haven't committed yet. And again,
It's
like you said, he
still,
didn't say I'm going to go and kill a 3-year-old,
yeah. He
and
wasn't
he didn't
specific to
say a
that
child.
family.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he
Whereas I
was a ticking time bomb. Like you don't know what a bomb is going to hit, where the shrapnel is going to hit. But
true,
that doesn't mean that you
yeah,
shouldn't keep an eye on it.
definitely. But I'm kind of like really at odds as well with people who sue the NHS. It's a public service. It's full of people that are doing their best. Like,
Yeah.
I know they're not always right, but they're not out to make money. They're out to just help people. They're not like a
Right.
private doctor's surgery. I think the NHS has a lot of leeway in terms of mistakes because they are a public
But
service.
because they are for the public and they're so busy, then that's where it fails sometimes because they're
Hmm.
just trying to move on to the next person, you know? So I can see why that
Yeah,
would
and the fucking
be
government make cuts to mental health shit, and then stuff like this
right.
happens.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
government
All
is
the
who
way
you
to the
should be
top.
mad with. Yeah,
Yeah.
stop voting Tory. So I know I'd be able to fucking shoehorn it in somewhere. Yeah, so she didn't get anything,
Mm,
which is shit. And obviously she's super angry.
yeah.
Like, and I know money doesn't bring your kid back, but it might have given her some kind of justice, especially considering that the fucking guy got a 16-year minimum, which is
Right.
nothing for murdering a
It's
3-year
not.
old and
Yeah.
severely sexually assaulting slash raping her. What the
Yeah.
fuck? What makes you think that in 16 years this absolute mentaloid is going to have cured himself of all inner rage?
Right.
I mean, maybe his defense team were like, "Oh, he was super drunk when it happened," or because they might use that.
Clearly, with all his
S-
psychiatric tests and everything before that, then they already knew. So it's just not a case to argue, I don't think. He's not a sane, good person.
He just shouldn't be in society at large.
No.
No. And there's no there's no medication you can give for psychopathy. So,
Right.
and he was diagnosed with that. Again, maybe he should just be thrown in Broadmoor.
Or, like I said, like, have police know that this kind of person lives in that area. Keep an eye on that person. Check up on that person. If they're living in the general public,
Yeah.
there should be more work done to check up on them rather than it's just like, oh, he has psychiatric problems and he needs a house to live in. Let's stick him in there. He's done. Done. Move
Yeah.
on.
Do what you will with your life, including going on
Right.
2-day benders.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have to check in with someone. He should have
Right.
to go to
Right.
AA. Like,
Yes. At the very least.
at the bare minimum. Yeah, so in September 2001, Armstrong was granted free legal aid to pursue a £15,000 compensation claim against the
What?
author, Bernard O'Mahony, who had tricked him into confessing, for a breach of confidence. How that even got into a courtroom, I do not
Right?
know. Oh, I
How?
confessed to murdering someone and they tattletaled on me. What?
I would, if GoFundMe was around at that time, I would have given that money to the author so
I
that he
know,
could.
right? Oh, by the way, he also caught other criminals
Oh,
that way.
yes. Have you read any of his books?
No, but I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Because fuck, he seems like amazing. Anyway,
Yes.
so Armstrong's solicitors backed up the case by claiming that O'Mahony had pretended to be a woman and allowed police to see a written statement, the letter which Armstrong admitted he was the killer and his plan to feign mental illness, which was supposed to be kept a secret.
Oh, no.
Keep my lies a secret. So the case was dropped in 2002, but only after Armstrong decided that he no longer wanted to pursue it. So it
Okay.
wasn't even that it was thrown out. He was just like, I can't be bothered anymore.
Probably
So
because he knew. This just
he
makes you look
probably
even
knew.
worse, dude.
Or he's a psychopath and he just got bored. Like, he's a
Yeah.
psychopath. As part of the case, he also tried to stop O'Mahony from publishing his book, Flowers in God's Garden, which included the story of Armstrong's confession as well as other criminals O'Mahony had written to and interacted with. The lawsuit at this point had already cost thousands of pounds of the British taxpayers' money. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So then, in March 2010, with Armstrong's earliest possible release date just 4 months away, Rosie's mother launched a campaign in Hartlepool for Armstrong to be placed on the sex offenders register when and if he is paroled. As the law stands, he will not go onto the register once he's released because he wasn't convicted of a sexual offence. He was
What?
convicted of murder, not rape.
Okay.
So, according to the Hartlepool Mail, which is just like their local paper, as of February 2021, he's still in prison and he's being refused parole. So
Good.
he's still
I was
in
going to
prison.
say.
Yeah, and he can apply for parole every 2 years. But that means that Rosie's mum has to go and go to his parole hearing
That
every fucking 2
sucks.
years. That is
Man.
so shit. Like, why is he not on a full life tariff?
Right.
He's never going to be fit to be released. He's a psychopath who murders 3-year-olds.
Just for her to have to relive that every 2 years, it's like you have no chance of moving on.
No. Like, all you can hope is that somebody kills him in prison.
Yeah.
That's all you can hope for. But he's
Right.
probably kept away from other people because he's a murderous paedophile.
Right.
So,
Wow. What a dark story.
sorry about that. But I just never heard of it, and
Yeah, me
she
neither.
was completely innocent, really cute. Again, it was up north, so I didn't hear about it.
Yeah.
And I think there's like loads of child murders in England that are really well covered. And she
Yeah.
kind of just seemed to slip through the net. And I just
Yeah.
thought that she deserved her story
Yeah.
told, because I've never heard of
She
it.
does. Yeah.
And obviously I think more people should know about him because he's still fucking alive and he's still in prison.
And
Like,
he's trying to get out.
and he's trying to get out every 2 years. So it definitely
Yeah.
should be on people's radars if he ever
If
gets
anything
like out.
changes, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I said I wouldn't burn a paedophile's house down, but that's on the record. Like, off the record, I don't know. Like,
Well, I'm adding, what's the author's name again? I'm going to add him to our book list.
yes, so he is called Bernard O'Mahony. So like
Okay.
O dash, and then like Maloney, but like Mahoney, like
Yeah.
Mahoney.
He's
He's
got
written
quite a few
loads.
books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's written loads. And the one that includes the story about this is called Flowers in God's Garden.
Flowers in God's Garden. Okay. I'm adding it. Check out our bookshop.org shop where we have a bunch of book lists. You can look
I
in
might do
our
a
show
little
notes for
cashback and
that.
buy one from there anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, what a dark story, but any more fart stories to lighten the
Oh,
mood?
fuck. Yeah, I forgot about the fart stories. Trying to
To
think.
close it out.
Fart stories to close. Oh, okay. I've got a fart story from Carly that I don't think she'll care about me telling. She doesn't listen to this anyway, so fuck her. But
Okay.
you know when you first go out with someone and you don't fart in front of them?
Yes.
Like I don't like generally, and again, this isn't me thinking I'm better than you or whatever, but like I generally don't fart in front of anyone but Carly because like
No.
we find it really funny. But like I think in like polite like society and stuff, I just don't do it because like
No.
my mum really hates people farting near her. So I think I've just been trained to like not fart near her. Like if my brothers farted near her, she would get fucking furious. She'd be like,
I
"Go to the
mean,
toilet," and they'd be like, "I
I'm
don't
kind
need to
of on your
poo."
mom's side. I'm on your mom's
Yeah.
side for this.
Yeah, like
I
I
know
don't want.
it's not a great thing to do, but when it happens
If
accidentally,
accidentally,
it's
then it's
hilarious.
hilarious.
Yes.
Absolutely agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Whereas like me and Carly are disgusting in front of each other. So like we just fart in front of each other because it's almost like we're ghosts and she's not here. We're just like one big homogenous blob. So it's like obviously
Yeah.
when you're on your own you fart freely because you don't
Right.
care. But anyway, so she was at her boyfriend's house, like one of her first boyfriends. And you know when you go around the house and you're like, oh, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna like have a shower and then pretend that I like need a shower
Yeah.
so that I can fart or have a shit or like
Step
whatever?
outside for a second.
Or like wait till they leave the room and be like, please don't smell, please don't smell. Like so,
Right.
so she said that she was like around his house all weekend and she was just like gasping by the end of it. She was like,
Oh
I
no.
am going to burst. So she said she went to the toilet and she obviously farted, but she was like, it just went like echoed round the U bend like so loud. She was like, he totally heard that. Apparently, she went back to his room and he was like, oh, I heard that. And she was like, yeah, I'm sorry, it like just echoed round the U bend. And he was like, what did? And she was like, what? Like he
What are you
totally
talking
wasn't
about?
talking about the fart.
What are
No,
we
what are you
talking
talking
about?
about?
Aw, poor Carly.
I know. She thought she was scot-free.
That's hilarious. All right, great story. Yeah, listeners, if you have hilarious stories like that, please send them in so that we can bring some lightness in between our murderous
Fart
horribles.
stories, fart stories. Okay, well, on that note,
Bye.
bye.
Thanks for listening to Transatlantic Crime this week. If you liked what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe.
And if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at TransatCrimePod, Instagram at Transatlantic Crime, and on Facebook with Transatlantic Crime Podcast.
Thanks, bye.